Isaiah records the longest and most detailed description of Jesus 700 years before Jesus was born. We will use the Jewish publication version of the Tanakh, Isaiah chapters 52 and 53. Also, it's nice to be able to read the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John in the New Testament for descriptions of the life and death of Jesus. Behold, my servant shall prosper. A better Hebrew translation would probably be a successful instructor. Be exalted and raised to great heights. Just as many were appalled by him, so marred was his appearance, unlike that of a man, his form beyond human semblance. Just so he shall startle many nations. Kings shall be silenced because of him, for they shall see what has not been told them, shall behold what they have never heard. Who can believe what we have heard? Upon whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he is grown by his favor like a tree crown, like a tree trunk out of arid ground. He had no form or beauty that we should look at him, no charm that we should find him pleasing. He was despised, shunned by men, a man of suffering, familiar with disease. The interpretation in the JPS Tanakh tends to replace the Greek word koli with disease, which is in line with the context the Tanakh begins to address here, that sin is like a spiritual disease and that the Messiah would bear our affliction. So in that regard, disease makes sense, but the word itself tends to describe deep grief, the ultimate pain of humans. Words like anxiety, calamity, and grief would be more accurate to the original Hebrew. As one who hid his face from us, he was despised. We held him of no account. Yet it was our sickness that he was bearing, our suffering that he endured. The combination of Hebrew words in this passage combines darkness, unhappiness, and poverty with grief and sorrow. Again, the interpreters of the JPS Tanakh use disease, but clearly it is in the context of the human condition. We accounted him plagued, smitten, and afflicted by God. But he was wounded because of our sins, crushed because of our iniquities. He bore the chastisement that made us whole, and by his bruises we were healed. We all went astray like sheep, each going his own way, and the Lord visited upon him the guilt of all of us. He was maltreated, yet he was submissive. He did not open his mouth, like a sheep being led to the slaughter, like a ewe dumb before those who shear her. He did not open his mouth. By oppressive judgment he was taken away. The physician Luke, in the 23rd chapter of his Gospel in the Christian New Testament, describes how Jesus did not defend himself before King Herod, and the oppression of the Romans and the appeasement of some of the prominent Jews resonates with the description that it would be an oppressive judgment. By the way, there is no room for anti-Semitism. Just as there are incorrect factions in every religious group today, so it was at the time of Jesus. Who could describe his abode? He was literally homeless, and he gave birth to no children. For he was cut off from the land of the living through the sin of my people, who deserved the punishment. And his grave was set among the wicked, and with the rich in his death. The Gospels declare that Jesus was crucified with two robbers and buried in the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, described as a prominent member of the council, a rich man. Though he had done no injustice, and had spoken no falsehood, but the Lord chose to crush him by disease, again better translated anxiety, malady, calamity, and grief, that if he made himself an offering for our guilt, he might see offspring and have long life. Presumably this would be spiritual offspring and long life after being killed as a guilt offering, so raising from the dead. Out of his anguish he shall see it. He shall enjoy it to the full through his devotion. My righteous servant makes the many righteous. It is their punishment that he bears. Assuredly, I will give him the many as his portion. He will receive the multitude as his spoil. For he exposed himself to death and was numbered among the sinners, whereas he bore the guilt of the many and made intercession for the sinners. The currency in the spiritual realm established by God is blood. Blood from lambs, goats, rams, birds. But the ultimate sacrifice had to be the blood of God taking our place, the ones who actually deserve death. This is God's plan and how he displays his love, confirms the brutality of this life, but promises peace and goodness in the next life. This is a great reality, and the New Testament of the Bible and the words of Jesus and the instructions from Paul and others are our guidance through the portal and our responsibility to believe and act upon acceptance of the provision made by God.